I started this journey about 40 years ago. I'm trained as a family therapist, and I was one of those family therapists that thought we'd found the Holy Grail and you don't need to muck around inside people, you just change their
Yeah.
external relationships. Did an outcome study, it was found that that wasn't true, it didn't work. And out of asking clients why it wasn't working, they started talking about these different parts, which was foreign to me at the time. This is 40 years ago. And because they were talking about them as if they had a lot of autonomy and they had relationships with each other and they could take over the person and make them do things they didn't want. And I thought, oh, these people are pretty sick. Until I started listening inside myself, oh my God, I've got them too.
Yeah.
And some of mine are as extreme as my clients. And then I got curious and, long story short, experimented with ways to have people actually talk to their parts. And in doing that, learned that they weren't what they seemed, that actually they were trying their best to keep the client safe, even though it was backfiring a lot of the time because the activities of these parts could be endangering the person. But they thought they were protecting, and it turned out that they had been frozen in time during traumas a lot of the time, or attachment injuries. And if you were to ask the part how old, I would have clients ask the part how old it thinks you are. They'd get a single digit most of the time.
Yeah.
And the part still thinks it has to do the job it had to do.
Yeah.
A lot of times the actual symptom was necessary during the trauma or the abuse. And this little part is still living back there, thinking it still has to protect a 5-year-old. And as I got that, then I started to play around with, could we show it appreciation rather than try and get rid of it? And they respond very well to that. And could you just tell it how old you are? And they respond really well to that, a lot of relief. And so, again, long story short, ultimately concluded that it's natural to have parts. They're not the creation of trauma, which was a pathological view of them. We come into the world with them, either manifest or dormant, and they all have wonderful, valuable qualities and talents to help us in our life, and that they get forced out of their naturally valuable states by traumas and attachment injuries and bullying and all the things we suffer into roles that they don't like, but they feel are necessary to keep us safe. Or some of them get what I call exiled inside, just because they got hurt.
Right.
And once they get hurt or shamed or terrified, they have the power to overwhelm us with their feelings.
Yeah.
And so we try to lock them away, and everybody tells us to do that. Like, just move on, don't look back, let it go. You can't change what happened. And so we wind up thinking we're just moving on from the memories and emotions, but we're really locking up our most precious qualities just because they got hurt. So those we call exile parts. You get a lot of exiles from trauma that way.
Yeah.
You also get a lot of exiles if you grew up in a family that didn't like certain emotions, and you had to push all that away. Didn't like anger, didn't like sexuality, didn't like, so most of us come out of our families with a lot of exiles.
Yeah.
When you have a lot of exiles, you feel more delicate. The world seems a lot more dangerous because so many things could trigger you. And so other parts are forced to become protectors.
Right.
And they think that if they can just keep you small and never take a risk, that you'll be safe and those exiles won't be hurt and triggered, because they're really just trying to keep the exiles contained. Because if an exile gets triggered, it can overwhelm you and pull you back into those seas.
Right.
So some of them become what we call managers, and they're like the ego, and they're trying to manage your life so that you don't get rejected, so that you perform at a high level and you get accolades to counter the worthlessness, or you take care of everybody, and so they stick around and they don't reject you, and
Right.
they don't let you take care of yourself, like we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole lot of common manager roles that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Keep you in your head so you don't feel your body much, and
Yeah.
so on and so on.
Yeah.
And despite the best efforts of those defenses, the world has a way of triggering your exiles.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, it's a big emergency
Right.
because it feels like you're going to die to a lot of parts of you because you just can't handle these emotions that
Yeah.
start to pour out. And so there's another class of protectors who then go into action to try and deal with the emergency. And in contrast to the managers who are
Mm-hmm.
wanting to control everything and please everybody, protectors often take you out of control, impulsively, reactively get you higher than the pain or the
Yeah.
flames of emotion, or douse them with some substance, or take you to some distracting activity till they burn themselves out.
Mm.
So we call those firefighters.
Yeah.
And they tend not to care about the collateral damage. They don't care what it's
Right.
going to do to your body or what it's going to do to your relationships.
Mm.
They think either they get you away from this feeling or you're going to die.
They're literally like firefighters. They
Yeah,
like
that's
carry
why
you
we call them
away
that.
from
That's
your
right.
experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even to the extreme of suicide.
Totally.
Yeah.
Suicide is just a really well-meaning
Yeah.
protector that
Yeah.
really doesn't want you to suffer.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful frame. So really compassionate and like,
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
if someone comes in suicidal, I said, let me talk to the part.
yeah.
What are you afraid would happen if you don't kill her?
Right.
She'll keep suffering.
Yeah.
If we could get her out of her suffering in a different way, would you have to kill her? No, but I don't think you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee we can if you let us.
Mm-hmm.
So would you let us go to the pain and we'll heal it, and then you can do something entirely different.
Makes me want to
So
cry.
it's a very different approach to all those kinds of things.
Yeah. It's just like, it makes me want to cry.